Good afternoon, everybody out there. My name is Rebecca McClaskey, and we are filming on location in Boulder, Colorado for Love Improv. And today we have a very special guest, Kent.
Hello.
Hello. And we're just talking about the plasticity of sexuality. It's a really eloquent phrase, and we're going to delve deeper into it. But first, we're going to kick it off with some very specific definitions. So if you can share with the people sort of the scientific and psychological definitions that surround sex and sexuality.
Okay. Maybe we should also lump in plasticity as well, just so everyone's on the same page with that.
Yeah,
right? Okay.
Let's do that.
So, plasticity is the condition of being deformable, okay, and staying in that form, okay?
All right.
As opposed to elasticity, which is deformable but returns to its original form.
All right.
Okay?
Great.
All right. So, sex we're going to define as what you carry genitalia.
Okay. Yeah.
What you carry in terms of your genitals.
Gotcha.
Okay? And then sexuality is essentially what your preferences are, at least in terms of this conversation. What or who you like to have sex with.
Great. And then as far as linguistically speaking, sex is a verb, the actual action of, and sexuality is more an adjective, kind of going into those preferences, those preferential places. So with those clear definitions for this particular conversation, let's talk a little bit about the plasticity of sexuality and what that is.
Okay. So it seems conventionally we are, and especially in Western culture, we sort of associate human sexuality with an either-or status. Mm-hmm. Either you are exclusively heterosexual or you are exclusively homosexual. Mm-hmm. Okay? And the problem with this sort of viewpoint is it doesn't bear out in a number of domains. Okay. It doesn't bear out genetically, number one. We can go on that in a sec. But it also doesn't bear out behaviorally. Mm-hmm. Okay? You look at most human sexual interactions during a person's lifetime, okay, right. They tend to be on one side or the other,
right.
Okay, but there also tends to be some overlap.
Sure.
Many folks, and this may pertain to women more, I'm not entirely certain, tend to have a non-exclusively heterosexual and non-exclusively homosexual sexual lifetime.
Kind of.
If that makes sense. That's
yeah.
a bit complex.
So behaviorally speaking, again, to kind of talk about the spectrum, is one side pretty much heterosexual, another side pretty much homosexual, but behaviorally what we're seeing in the world is there's sort of a shuttling between the two.
We tend to play for one team, but we'll also occasionally pinch hit for the other.
Gotcha. Really great metaphors. So, genetically speaking, mm-hmm. How does it play into plasticity?
Okay. I mean, and this argument rests on a number of assumptions, which we can go into. Okay. But if we assume, for instance, that your genes at least pertain to the kind of person you are, pertain to the kind of behavior that you exemplify.
Sure.
You have genes from your mom and your dad.
Right.
And obviously, both of them were interested in the opposite sex, at least at some point, which is why you're here.
Right.
Okay. And so you've inherited these sort of predilections for being interested in both men and women. Okay. So since humans don't start out as a blank slate, right? The blank slate idea has been thoroughly demolished.
Yeah. We
have predilections, but we're not wholly determined either. Since we start out with these predilections, the way that these predilections develop over time, mm-hmm. okay, is going to somewhat determine, okay,
right.
the kind of person you want to have sex with.
And then playing out in a behavioral realm, there's a lot of conversation around morality and rightness of predilections.
Sure.
So to drop back into the biology piece, we actually come into this world with both mm-hmm. predilections.
Yeah.
So environmentally speaking, we're going to go nature-nurture on this one a little bit.
Should we?
Well, we don't have to, but just a pinch. Environmental, whatever, cues or sex, my question to you is, do they have a bearing on your predilections?
Your environmental context?
Yes.
Oh, of course they do.
And how so?
I mean, it's contingent, right?
Right.
If you're raised in a society where the only woman you ever see is like once every 20 years, and she happens to be mated with a guy that runs the show, and you have no chance whatsoever for having sex with her, okay, then you have no cues to be heterosexual. Okay, that behavior will never emerge. Okay, so like prisons, for instance, have a sort of very similar sort of demographic. Right.
Sure.
So that's one example, and you could think of any number of conditions where either behavior might manifest.
Right.
Right. So you live in a Western society where pretty much any sexual practice, as long as it's not harmful to a minor or doesn't involve a non-consenting individual like an animal.
Sure.
Okay, tends to be okay. You see this burgeoning of a lot more sexual practices. So it's sort of like when the constraints aren't there, or more exactly when the appropriate constraints are there.
Right.
Okay. When the sort of we'll just leave it at appropriate constraints. When they are there,
right,
you see these behaviors emerging. The right conditions allow them to emerge, like mushrooms popping out of a forest floor.
Okay. So to bring that into a little bit of a kind of psych context, this ability to be plastic in your predilections, sexual predilections, does that in any way kind of shape who you are able to be in your lifetime as a person? Is that a clear question? Like
so.
Your choices shape who you are.
Yes, and who you are shape your choices.
All right.
Right?
Right.
Yeah. Again, it's classic feedback loop, right?
Sure.
One doesn't really come before the other. They kind of both happen at the same time, and they inform one another.
And we'll delve in a little deeper around the actual pairing of partners and choosing piece in the next video. So if you have any more questions, and I hope you do, you can send comments to us at Love Improv, or you can get a hold of Kent via, is there any way they can get a hold of you specifically? Email?
I'll have to think about that. Definitely not email.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll find a way if you have any questions, and we'll shuttle them to him. So again, thank you all for stopping by. I hope this got your brain jelly moving. And I am Rebecca. Keep it sexy. Bye.